Hi, so I'm going to be telling you all about bioethanol today, and basically it's just going to be a more sustainable version of a fuel that we can use. So bioethanol is an alcohol which is made from certain starch-based plants or sugar-based plants. And I think what's really important to note about it is that it can come from agricultural waste, which really differs from a lot of different types of fuels and gasolines because a lot of different types of gasolines can only come from fossil fuels. And if y'all know anything about that, it is not sustainable in the long term. It causes a lot of issues with pollution, greenhouse gases, and overall just not the best solution for sustainability. And what's really cool about bioethanol is that it can be used or created from agricultural waste. So that means that we are basically able to take what we don't use anymore and turn it into a form of fuel so that we can fuel forms of transportation. Um, so bioethanol is formed through fermentation of sugar and starch, and it can be from things such as corn or sugar or any starch-based substance. And it goes through a lot of processes to become fuel. It has three steps that it actually goes through to make it its final form. So that does make it a little bit difficult. It does make it a little bit expensive to make, which is an important note to take. Um, but yeah, bioethanol is actually really interesting because it can be made through the fermentation of sugar. So meaning that rather than using other unsustainable sources, we're using something that we have every day, and even waste is made out of sugar or starch, so we can use waste to make it. So the little bit of the development status is that currently bioethanol is in the process of being more widespread, but it is commonly used still. It's not like the main fuel used, but I mean it's still pretty well used. So I mean, the main problem with bioethanol is that it's not functional for many vehicles yet, meaning that we basically are just struggling to make vehicles that run strictly off of bioethanol. So, what most people do who use bioethanol is make like a 90-10 mixture of regular gasoline and bioethanol to make it kind of an add-on. So it's still more sustainable than 100% of just regular gasoline, but not still widely used. So I want to start with the economic impact first. The economic impact is going to be really good with bioethanol because it's allowing more job opportunities and to create a new industry that will be much needed. But yeah, I mean, we have so many economic possibilities, and because it uses food to produce, it may be more expensive because of the prices of crops if we're just strictly using a certain type of food or growing a certain type of food to make bioethanol, then that means that we probably will make it more expensive, um, just because demand and all those other factors. And the impact of bioethanol is overall pretty positive, meaning that fossil fuels, we can all kind of come into agreement that it's not the most positive thing for our environment and that a lot of people don't want to use them because they're unsustainable in the long term. Um, but I mean, bioethanol is going to be better than regular other fuels, meaning that like it just doesn't have that detrimental of a negative impact on the environment. But of course, everything's going to have some sort of negative impact. So, how we should communicate this is California has something called LCFS, which is just basically a low carbon fuel standard that helps regulate fuel and usage of sustainable possibilities. And I think that the US government should create a lot of funding and research to help promote the usage of resourceful biofuels, and that they should also promote those usages of fossil fuels, or not fuels. Bioethanol is a pretty good source of energy, and we need to take more steps to make the Earth a brighter place. But it does produce less CO2 than regular gas and is less harm to the environment. And overall, I think it's a pretty beneficial aspect because it created an almost 17% payback over the past 6 years. So the plan of action, I think what we should do is using fines to the usage of damaging or polluting fuels. So let's just say a company has a big project coming up and they decide instead of using something that's more sustainable by like bioethanol, they use something that's really less sustainable and they end up causing a lot of pollution to the environment. They're going to get fined for that. I think if we had an unlimited amount of money, we could create more walkable cities with cities over 10 million in their population, and then start the transition into bioethanol in the gas stations to make it even more sustainable. But that would cost probably billions of dollars, so is most likely not going to be sustainable in the long term. And then these are my sources.